Hey team, regular listeners of the pod will know I will never shy away from an opportunity to talk about discharge on the pod, and luckily our sponsor Skimpies is giving me an incredible opportunity to do just that. Anybody who's known me for a while will know I am fascinated by women who can just go commando without a care in the world. My bod is just not built like that, especially post-kids. But I do still want the freedom of no underwear lines, especially when I'm getting my squats on at the gym. Enter Skimpies, the original leggings liner. You just press the Skimpies into your leggings and you've got an organic cotton barrier right where you need it. And it stays put. It's crazy, even during a sweaty workout. With hundreds of thousands sold, it's a no-brainer. Go to skimpies.com to get started. Skimpies, we just want to be in your pants. Hey team, and welcome. I'm your host, Carrie, creator of Mother Life, your destination for all things real talk and parenting. This is the IRL group chat, where we talk about the wild balancing act of pursuing careers and passions while also doing our best to show up for our kids. Join me every week as I sit down with some badass parents in my closet and we talk about their careers, kids, and relationships and all of the weird shit that comes up when you're trying to balance the seemingly impossible. Rising to the occasion, the moment you've been training for, stepping up to the plate. This is often how we think about big moments in our lives. Each experience is another brick in the wall of our foundational knowledge. It's waiting for us to be able to tap in and spring into action when the moment presents itself. This week's archival episode has had me thinking a lot about a slightly different permutation of this idea. How sometimes it's not that we rise to the occasion, but that an occasion comes to us that we are uniquely positioned to respond to. In this case, the occasion is the world on fire, and the very fabric of our society and our economic system is being poked and prodded and reshaped by new technologies at a breakneck speed while income inequality worsens and power is increasingly concentrated to a highly privileged few, and rules are starting to seem a little bit more like suggestions to those in power. You know, all that warm, fuzzy stuff. This week's guest has been so firmly who she is for her entire life. Curious, extremely principled, generally unimpressed by power for power's sake or successful people just for the sake of their success. That this moment, this particular moment we are living in, has made her a beacon for telling the truth and standing up to bullies on a global scale, even when that's a really scary thing to do. Because she's got a daughter to raise, and God damn it, she's going to raise her in a world worth living in. When we were both coming up in the journalism game as young upstarts, I always looked up to Katie because she didn't wait for other people to take her seriously. She knew she was good at what she did. She knew her voice, her very distinctive voice, really mattered. And she grabbed opportunity by the horns rather than waiting for things to be given to her, rather than waiting for the occasion to arise. When I'm psyching myself up, still to this day, for a hard conversation at work or positioning for a new role, my inner voice is, well, it's her talking to me. Katie Drummond is the global editorial director of Wired. That's a fancy way of just saying she's the boss of the whole operation. It's the tech-focused publication that she's taken from a niche read to mainstream reporting in the few years she's been at the top. She's not only transformed this publication, but she's transformed how the media landscape, terrified to piss off people in power, can still do its job. How it can hold large companies and large government institutions to account. From their coverage of artificial intelligence to the war in Iran, the ties between tech companies and ICE, breaking news about Elon Musk and his efficiency agenda in the White House, subscriptions have exploded. Part of the reason? Katie has made it very clear that she has very few fucks to give if you don't like her tone. Enjoy this one from the archives. You can tell I'm just so proud of her, mainly because she's never wavered from what makes her, her. And may that be infectious to all of us in a chapter of our lives where that sometimes can feel impossible to pull off.
I still can't believe you live in LA.
I know, it's because I'm so gritty and hard in Brooklyn.
You are.
You know what I found? A lot of people, New Yorkers especially, come to LA and it's like bred into our DNA to hate on LA. And then you get here and you're like, things are considerably easier here. And like, I can still have opinions about things, and I can still tell people to get the fuck out of my way on the sidewalk if I want. Like, you can still do that if you want.
So you like it?
I do. For raising kids and not being cold, it's good.
Those are important things.
But you're like Canadian, so
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I like
I
it.
feel
I
like
like New York.
you're more robust than me. I think
Thank
in
you.
general
Thank
is
you.
probably true. Okay, should we get into it?
Let's do it.
Now, this is pretty unorthodox because we're
Okay.
not in anybody's closet right now, which,
Yeah. It's a
I would
thing.
prefer
Yeah.
it if you were with me in my closet.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, so you know what we do here. This for me, this podcast has been such a great excuse to like reconnect with people who I really love and care about. And I was thinking about in particular, do you remember when you and I were single and we were like, let's just say yes to anybody who asks us on a
I
date?
was just thinking about that this morning. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we did it, and then like you met your husband immediately,
Yeah. I remember that.
and I just went on a string of terrible
Terrible
dates.
dates. This was like OK Cupid era.
Sure was.
Yeah,
And it
sure
was
was.
like it was very much the era of like me having to text you to make sure that I wasn't going to get murdered, or if I did get murdered that like someone knew where I was.
Yes. Yeah.
And now look at us now.
Look at us thriving.
Just thriving. So, okay, we're going to start with little Katie in Canada as a child. How do we get from that to like badass boss bitch journalist?
Wow. Okay.
Cuz like it's a long thread, but I think one of the things that I am excited to dig in here, and one of the things that I have always watched with so much admiration in your career, is like how few fucks that you give
Hmm.
and how clear your direction of travel always has been. Like, you have always just made choices based on what you think is best for your career, and have done it in a way that like women often don't get away with because people tell us we're too bullish if we just go after the shit we want. So I want to start with like, who was little Katie growing up in Canada? What were you like as a kid?
We're just getting right into it then.
Yeah, we don't have time.
Okay.
We're busy people.
Okay.
Do you want me to ask you about the weather in New York? I can.
No. Who was little Katie as a little kid? I was the youngest of three sisters. So I was the baby of three by 4 years. Um, I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, which is like a mid-size Western Canadian city that is not particularly exceptional. Um, and I was an anxious kid. I was a serious, anxious kid, um, pretty introverted, and like pretty academically oriented. Like I was very good at school. Um, and then as a teenager, I was a lot more sort of like freewheeling and fun and crazy. And so I sort of balanced the, staying out all night drinking and then falling asleep in the back seat of my car, which might be illegal, but it happened many times.
Well,
With
I mean, it's better than driving the car.
better, exactly, and that's what I figured.
So some would say you were extremely responsible.
There you go. I was an extremely responsible binge drinker as a
Yeah.
teenager, but always like very. And I hate to give myself any credit because I'm Canadian, but I think, and this isn't even giving credit because it's actually not a great way to live. And when I think about my daughter now, which I'm sure we'll talk about, I would never want her to be like this. But I remember in high school, I was very academically oriented. I went to a very high pressure high school. And I remember just having this idea in my head that, like, well, I'm just not going to make any mistakes. Like, mistakes academically just aren't an option on the table. So every test, every essay, every little thing that I did at school, I just didn't make any mistakes. So I was the valedictorian.
Obviously.
And I graduated with like a perfect transcript because I genuinely didn't make any errors, which sounds cool.
That sounds like diarrhea to me.
Well,
like that just sounds like anxiety
exactly,
diarrhea.
exactly. So on the the back end of that, there was, I mean, a lot of heavy drinking, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. And ultimately, I think like a lot of unhappiness because that kind of pressure and just that fixation on being perfect is obviously not a healthy way to be, especially as a teenager. So that's so there. I guess when I think about my childhood and my adolescence, it was intense. I was like an intense kid. Like I sweated the small stuff. Like I took it all very seriously. And in hindsight, I think I probably could have taken it a lot less seriously.
I think I was similar, maybe a little goofier, but definitely took my academics really seriously. And I joke a lot now that, like, I should have been more promiscuous when I was younger. I should have like tried drugs when I was younger because now that chapter is sort of over. I mean,
Totally.
drugs could come for me, like we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
But but like I kind of, I thought it was all super serious, and then I see some of my friends who are really successful and, like, they just didn't bow to convention, and, like, they didn't do great in school, but they're doing great now, and it's like, well, you're gonna find your path no matter what, so, like, you
Yeah.
might as well, in my case, not give myself diarrhea constantly
Yeah. I'm really
for being
glad. I'm
stressed.
glad that you weren't struggling with chronic diarrhea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I kinda was, but, that's a story for another pod.
Fair.
So, okay, so serious kid, and then at what point do you were academically inclined, when do we start channeling that into writing or storytelling or collecting information? I feel like people come to journalism from so many different avenues of interest. How did
Yeah.
you get to it?
Writing was always something that I was good at. I remember in third grade, I wrote a story about a baby duck, a chick, who lost its mother. And I used the phrase a wall of trees. Like the chick looked through a wall of trees. And my teacher was so excited because that's some sort of, what is that? It's not a metaphor. It's some special writing thing that you
Analogy?
maybe,
No.
yeah, it's one of those things.
We should know.
This is
We
bad.
should both
Yeah,
know, but it's fine.
but it's fine. And she was like so excited that she told my parents about this duckling story. So that was always like there. And my mom was a writer. So my mom was a poet who started her career, I would say like in her early 40s when my sisters and I were a little bit older. She stayed at home with us when we were really young, but she was a writer. So I sort of grew up around writing as like a craft, writing as a professional pursuit. She taught writing, she published books. Like that was a thing that happened in my household. And I really admired her and admired her writing. I mean, I thought she was like the most amazing, and I still do.
Don't you have
Um,
a tattoo of some of her
I
words on
do.
you?
I have a couple of tattoos of her poetry. So I definitely just sort of grew up immersed in writing, um, and really in admiration of her. And then I was just a complete and total snoop voyeur weirdo. This is terrible, but like I read everyone's diary in that household. I read everyone's email. I remember we got like our first computer and everyone had their email accounts. I would just like hack their email accounts over and over and over. I know every bit of dirt on every single one of my family members. I just have always been really interested in, and I think everybody is to some extent, but I really took it to a new level. I just love knowing what was going on with everyone. So I think when you
Katie
combine that,
Drummond, child detective.
exactly, when you combine that like voyeuristic snoop with grew up around writing and really loved and admired great writing, it's like, yeah, it by the time I was in high school, it was very clear that I wanted to be not even so much a journalist at the time, but it was more like I want to be a writer. I think I want to go into journalism, but like I want to write for my career.
Also, so super interesting that your mom started pursuing her passion after you guys were kind of a little more self-sufficient, at a point where we are your mom's age now, basically,
Yeah.
when she started that career. Um, do you think, like, did you ever get any inkling when you were growing up that this was something latent within her, or did it just kind of burst forth in some sort of pointed, like stage of life?
That's a really good question. I think it had always been there. I know that, so my mom died when she was, oh, it's terrible that she was 50 or 52. I don't have the math right, but
Young.
she died
Young.
very young. She died relatively soon after even starting her kind of the sort of professional chapter of her life, which I think about a lot. And so when that happened, I remember her best friends from college like gave me and my sisters poems that she had written. Like she was
Mm.
always a writer, so it was always there, but it took a back seat to being a mom. Like she had 3 young kids. My sisters are a year apart, and then I'm 4 years younger than my middle sister. So she had a lot to do, and I think she sort of set that aside and then picked it up again.
And
Which,
how old were
yeah,
you when your mom passed, Katie?
I was 18.
Fuck. I
Yeah.
mean, like, such a formative chapter to lose a parent and a mom and like somebody that you admired. And I imagine you can't help but reflect on that now as a mom.
Oh, yeah, I think
And
about it a lot.
also as somebody who's super driven in your career, like, do you feel like some of the, because you do have immense drive, and I want to get to that and talk about some of the amazing things that you've done, but do you think any of that comes from this place of, I don't want to wait, I want to start my life yesterday and just do all of the things I want to do now?
I think that is the I think that is exactly it. And I remember after she died, it wasn't even a conscious decision that I made, but it was very clear to me. Like I was just very clear-eyed about, oh, this kind of stuff can happen literally. Like my mom died very suddenly. So it was like, oh, this can happen literally overnight. Um I need to get going now. And I was 18, 19, and I started pitching stories. Like I started like working because in many ways I think I saw how short that period of time ultimately was for her, right? It was about 10 years that she was able to pursue what she wanted to do, and I just felt this kind of like overwhelming imperative, this like urge to get on with it, because not that every day I was waking up and thinking like this could be the last day I have to pitch my story. It wasn't,
Sure.
but it was just in the background, this kind of like awareness of how finite all of this is and how ephemeral all of it is and how suddenly things can change. And so like you better not sit on your ass. Like if you want to go do something, go do it. I think that's, I mean, my mom and my mom dying taught me many, many things, but in a professional context, I think that was the overriding lesson. And I think that has just been what keeps pushing me, even though I don't think about it in a conscious way, but it's just
Now it's just part
there.
of your like mental
Yeah,
wiring,
totally,
basically.
totally. It's like in my DNA that's just like what you do. You just
Yeah.
keep going and you get on with it and you get it done, because you might be dead and you will be dead at some point. And so don't wait until you're 40. And I mean, obviously she had her reasons for that, and I like to think they were good reasons because they were my sisters and I, but um just, yeah, get on with it basically.
And so you're pitching stories, you're following on from this horrific, like, monumental loss. I mean, losing a parent is, especially that young, is just something, our as we know that we are the backbone and foundation for our kids in so many ways. And so you're in this kind of fragile place, both like brain chemistry wise, you're in that like formative time where all this stuff is going on in your brain developmentally. You're discovering like what it means to be an adult. Are you in college at this point? Are you starting college?
Yeah, I was 4 months into college when she died, so I was in college. Yeah.
So you're in college, you're like trying to make new friends, I suppose, and like decide who you are as a person. All the while, you've now got this other sort of agenda where you're like, I gotta keep moving. What were those college years like? Were you just training right through them? Did the party girl from high school come back to visit? Like, what was it like?
It was intense would be a word. similar to my childhood, but in a different way. My mom was an alcoholic, and I knew that as a teenager. It was a contributing factor to her death, and so the party vibes from the first like 4 months of college. As soon as she died, I didn't have a drink for 6, 7 years after that. So my college years were no drinking, no partying, no drugs, no cigarettes. I got into a relationship with an abolitionist vegan. Um,
Sure.
sure. So I was vegan. All of my friends were vegan and straight edge. And we did a lot of like bake sales, while also showing like graphic footage of animal exploitation in factory farms. I
Sure.
was that girl at your
Yep.
college. I'm sorry to all of you, if you were offended by my vegan bake sale. But I worked really hard in class, and then on the side, I was constantly writing stories for like Canadian magazines or blogs or the college newspaper. I was writing poetry and submitting it to poetry journals, and then I was in a relationship. So I was, and still am a runner. So I was like a typical day for me in college would be like wake up at 6 in the morning, run 7 or 8 miles, walk to campus, be in class all day, get home, do my coursework, my schoolwork, write stories for some magazine or whatever I was doing at the time, go to bed. Like that was my life for 4 years.
Intense.
It was not
And
fun. Yeah, it was not fun.
sober in all of the senses.
Sober in all of the senses.
And your dad, who's an absolute legend, where's dad in this picture, in this timeline? I mean, he's obviously also on a journey during this chapter of your life.
My dad, it was an interesting losing a parent at 18 is an interesting moment, right? Because you're sort of transitioning from a dependent child into, hopefully your parents hope this, and I think this is what everybody wants, like an independent, fully actualized adult. And so I think my dad was a rock and a friend and a very close friend and a big supporter, and I think someone who, while dealing with his own grief and figuring out how to handle it for himself, was also trying to help like three young women, like his daughters, navigate their adult lives, and try to give us like space, but also make sure that we weren't totally derailing from this very traumatic event. So I remember at one point, God knows what had happened, but I had some meltdown and dropped out of university, dropped out of college, because I decided I was not going to get a Bachelor of Arts degree. I was going to go to this different school and get a degree in poetry and become a poet. And
Mm.
that was a point where I called him and said, like, I did this, like I dropped out of school. And then the dad would show up again of like, no, 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 no,
You get the
no.
fuck back into school,
You need
Katie.
to know, you need to, and like would sort of talk me off the ledge of like, why don't you send an email to each of your professors and then go meet with each of them and have them re-enroll you in their class? Like you're not dropping out. So we just developed like, I think, a really great friendship ultimately, as two adults, with the kind of him as the parent always in the background, like ready to pounce as needed.
What a legend,
What
that
a
guy.
legend.
And when you're living this college life, when you are enrolled and you're just like running and grinding and working and veganing, is dad just like quietly like, this is fine, this is how she's processing all of this? Or is he like, Katie, maybe have a little fun, or maybe like chill out?
I think he was um concerned, but in like a watchful, passive way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think he let me kind of do my thing and come to my realizations about what I needed to figure out, and was very supportive and available. Um, but didn't never sort of intervened directly to say like, maybe this vegan relationship isn't I ultimately ended up getting married. I married this person.
You
My,
did.
my family was at the wedding, and we got divorced a couple years later. So, but he let me figure that out. Like I did it, didn't go well, and I figured it out.
And honestly, like, that's kind of a gift, because I'm sure if he came in like guns blazing, being like rah 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 rah, you'd have been like, cool, I'm gonna dig my heels in real
Right,
deep
right,
right
right,
now.
right. I have thought about this a fair bit, and whether I wish he had been more leaned in to kind of like helping me navigate my life and almost like sort of dictating the terms with which I would experience my early 20s.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he didn't, because I think I would have been really upset if he had done that.
And you would have had a different relationship with him
Yes,
ultimately
yes,
as a
exactly. Yeah.
consequence. Okay, so you go through like a pretty intense college experience and you finish, and then what happens?
I had always wanted, I'm a dual citizen. My mom was American, and I had always wanted to go to school in New York and live in New York and be a writer in New York. That was sort of always what I wanted to do. And a teacher in high school said to me, don't don't like spend your parents' money or go into debt going to like Columbia University or NYU for undergrad. Like, do really well in undergrad, and then those schools will pay you. They will pay your tuition to go to grad school. And he was exactly right. That's exactly what happened. So I got a scholarship to get a master's degree in journalism from NYU. So I finished college, and I remember driving with my dad and my then husband. I think we had gotten married that summer, driving across the border. We drove to New York and moved into an apartment. And that was in 2008. And I've been here ever since. So I drove here, started at NYU. I did 2 semesters of a 3-semester program. And in the second semester, I was a research assistant for a writer who was working on a book. And the writer also, his like day job when he wasn't doing the book was he was a writer for Wired magazine. And he said, they bring interns like in and out of Wired. You should interview that. Let me see if they can like get you an internship. And I got an internship at Wired magazine, working for Nick Thompson, who's now the CEO of The Atlantic, and Noah Shachtman, who most recently was the editor in chief of Rolling Stone. And at that point, I started writing for Noah. So I started covering national security for a blog called Danger Room that Wired was running. And I was covering sort of like extreme health and medical news, like Pentagon funded medical research, post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, all this stuff that just because of my mom and because of my interests was very interesting to me. So I developed a beat, as they are called in journalism, and was politely and supportively encouraged by my editors to drop out of grad school, which I did. So I dropped out of school, and that was like my hook in, was because then I could say, I'm a writer for Wired. And so from there, you start to see how you can like build a career, because actually you're an intern who's like writing for their blog. But if you email an editor and pitch them something and you're able to introduce yourself as a writer for Wired magazine, people get really excited.
See, this is the difference between you and I, because I don't know if I ever had the cojones, at least at that age, to say when I was interning, I am a writer. Like my first byline at the New York Times, I was an intern, but I don't think I ever like said like I am a writer for the New York Times. I think I just was like, I'm an intern and maybe you want to pay me shit to do some shitty thing for you too.
Well, your name is on the story. It's like,
It's true.
I didn't say I'm on staff. I didn't say I'm a staff writer. I said I write for Wired. Here's a link to my page, and would you like to pay me $3,000 for this feature?
And so then how long were you, so you're at Wired, and then what happens after that? You're sort of freelancing, putting stuff together, and then
Yeah, I was on a contract with Wired, being paid some like horrific amount of money, like something terribly insulting, to write and work way too much. I was freelancing. I was also working behind the front desk at my physical therapist's office. She like treated my running injuries, and then I needed some more money than I was making as a writer, so I was working there doing like, insurance billing stuff for her. She paid me in American Express gift cards. Um, and then what happened is AOL News was expanding at the time, and they hired this hotshot New York Times editor named Mike Nitza to come and kind of like run their expansion of their news efforts. And I emailed him and said, I'm a writer at Wired. I cover the intersection of health and medicine and national security. Da 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 da. And he wrote back and said, well, I've never heard of anyone who covers that before. And he brought me in for an interview and he offered me a job. And so I actually kept writing for Wired, but had like a pretty like full-time gig with AOL. So then I'm making like an actual living. Like I was probably making $5,000, $6,000 a month. And that's actually where I met my now husband, my second husband, my
Your forever
my
husband.
forever husband, exactly, the permanent
whether or not
husband.
he likes it.
Yeah, different podcast. But yeah, then I was just working. Like I was a working journalist, and so I went from there. I did a bunch of stuff. So I went to the Daily, which was when Rupert Murdoch thought it would be a good idea to put a newspaper on an iPad, but which was a very like exciting moment in journalism at the time. So Mike Nitza, my editor at AOL, went there and he hired me to come with him. So I went and did that for a year. Then I went back to Wired for a year because that was a total disaster despite their best efforts. And then I went to The Verge in 2013, when The Verge was still like very new. And it was under Vox Media, but it was just kind of emerging and becoming a thing. And I went there and they hired me, God knows why, to be their science editor. So like I just sort of suddenly,
I think I have ideas why.
Oh, thank you. But I just like suddenly became an editor and a manager. And so from there, I was still writing, but I really leaned into like the management track because I found that I think what I tell people and what is true about why I switched over is I found it so much more gratifying ultimately to see someone else's byline and like help someone else get their story out. That to me was way more gratifying than like me writing something and seeing it out there in the world.
I do think that
I
makes
just
you
like
kind
that.
of unicorny in two senses. So journalism, or really any other profession where there's some specialization that is sort of like the kernel of what people do, I feel like what happens is if you get really good at that kernel, writing or whatever, the only way up to get paid more money is to take on more managerial tasks.
Oh, yes, this trap.
And like
yeah.
For a lot of people, that is the wrong thing, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
just because you're a good writer, it's kind of antithetical to being good at people in a lot of ways, often.
Yeah.
And so people get stuck in this thing. So the fact that you were like, oh, I've done this other piece, ego aside, this is like really gratifying to me. This feels really good. Now this is like making sense why the career trajectory continued to kind of go up and up, because just because you want to make more money and become more senior, if you don't then also have the skill set to do the thing that you're required to do, people won't like you very much.
No, they won't. They won't. And not everyone, to be fair, not everyone likes me. That part of this job for sure is recognizing that that's going to happen and being okay with that. But it was a very deliberate choice. It was like, I like this. I like management. I like editing. I like strategy. I like the big picture. Like, I want to do this. And so I went to Bloomberg. I was the deputy editor there for a bit. I ran Gizmodo through their Hulk Hogan lawsuit and bankruptcy and like that whole saga for Gawker Media. I did some startup stuff. And then I was at Vice for 5 years.
Which, like, you are so Vice.
Thank you.
The vibe. Like the whole vibe is giving Vice.
It was I will say, a very good culture fit. I loved so much about that place. I loved the people. They were like my people in exactly the way that you say, and just very creative and weird and funny, like really funny people. Um, and, you know, a company that just like didn't have a chance. Like the runway like was not
Mm.
there. So I was also there for that bankruptcy, which was really terrible. And then as luck would have it, and almost I will say fate would have it, as I was in the process of quitting at Vice, it was the bankruptcy. We had laid off hundreds of people. I had had enough. Like I could not do it anymore. I started interviewing for a job as the global editorial director of Wired, which is what the title of editor in chief has become because the brand is global. So we have teams in different markets. So I oversee all of those. So I interviewed for this job and got this job. So now in 2008 or 2009, I was an intern at Wired, and
And now
now
she's running the place.
and now I run it. So I'm talking to you from my office at One World Trade Center.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And so now we have to go back and rewind and overlay your personal life as you're doing this trajectory. So you briefly mentioned I was at AOL News. That's where I met my forever husband.
Yes.
Let's talk about that chapter of our lives because we were hanging out a lot. We were spending a lot of time
We
together.
really were. Yeah.
It was a really magical time, and like our
Yes.
shitty apartments. Like, I think you were still vegan at that
I'm
time.
sure I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I ate lots of like cashew things that I had probably never eaten before you. And we were single, and you really gave me this confidence of like, what's the worst that could happen by going on dates? Because dating, especially as a woman in New York, is fucking
The
dire.
worst.
It's dire
Horrible.
out there. The stats are against you, the vibe is against you, the whole mentality is against you being happy.
Yes.
And so you and I say, we're both journalists at the time, like, let's just say yes. We're going to say yes to everybody who asks us out. We'll on the apps or whatever, we're just going to say yes. And like, we'll write about it. I think we even talked about maybe doing a spreadsheet.
We totally did. Yeah. Yeah.
We like had a whole, we were like, this will be our like comeback from New York fucking us over with the terrible dating scene. We're going to just document how vile it is. And then we meet Carl.
Then we meet Carl.
Tell me about, I mean, I obviously remember, I think we were texting that night, but I want to hear about the genesis of Carl wooing this like hardened, battle-worn New York City dating veteran.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how many dates I ultimately went on in New York City because of Carl. Carl's divine intervention saved me from many bad dates.
Don't worry, I went on them instead.
Thank you for your service. I was working at AOL, and I was working from home because I was a permalancer. So I was worked full-time hours, but I was on a contract. So I was at home, and my boss invited me into the office to have lunch one day. And I came in, and he walked me around the office, and I met people, and I met this twerpy little cute weirdo who talked to me for like 15 minutes about a story he was working on about like several kilos of marijuana like falling out of the back of a police van or something. And I was
Sure.
like, who is this guy? And then I get back home. Oh, it was, who is this guy and why does he have a desk at the office and I don't? Was the thing.
Sure.
He got special preferential treatment. So I go home and he's added me on GChat, and my boss messages me, Mike Nitza, and is like, after you left, Carl started cutting out paper hearts and like writing your name on them, writing your initials on them. And I was like, oh no, this guy has a crush on me. How embarrassing for him. And then we started chatting like a lot because we worked together and we had met, and we would chat.
And GChat, by the way, was the place
was
for
the place
like
to be.
office
Yeah.
flirtation.
So we would chat all day, and it turned out we had a lot in common, and he was very funny and very sweet, and it was a very natural finish each other's sentences kind of dynamic. We hung out outside of work a little bit as I was going through like at the end of a marriage in reality. I mean, which sounds ridiculous. I was like 23 or 24. But my marriage was ending as I was getting to know him. And then as I was leaving, we were both leaving AOL because we had actually both been hired by our AOL boss to go work at the Daily. They had a goodbye party for us. And at the goodbye party, we
I
were
should have
playing.
saved these text messages because I have text messages from
Oh,
you at that party.
I actually want to go back. No, I guess we don't have them. But
Probably not.
we were at this party, and a group of us were playing a game called Whiskey Slap, which is you take a shot of whiskey and the person next to you slaps you across the face.
It's fucking idiotic.
Took my
So
shot of
stupid.
I was sitting across from Carl and next to another coworker. I took my shot of whiskey. Or no, I was sitting next to Carl. I took my shot of whiskey, and then Carl was supposed to slap me. And he was like, "No, I can't do it. I can't hit you." And I'm like quite drunk by then, and so is he. And I was like, "Well, someone has to slap me. Like that's the game." And this coworker, this poor guy named Dave, across the table is like, "Well, I'll slap you."
It's always a Dave.
It's always a Dave. So Dave leans over the table and slaps me, and Carl lunges for the guy, leaps over the table, knocks everyone's drinks down, and it's like, "I can't believe you hit her," and starts, I mean, beating this guy. Like they're in a physical fight. He has to be restrained, taken out of the bar by force. And then yada 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 professes his love for me. I'm furious. I'm like, "This is so sexist. I can take care of myself. Who do you think you are?" And he's like, "Can I walk you home?" I'm like, "No, like go away. Go away." So then I go to Canada for a week to see my family. I tell my dad this story. I'm like, "Isn't this so sexist and like so just obnoxious?"
And your dad's just smitten.
And my dad says, "But isn't it so romantic?" And then I'm like, "Oh shit. Yeah. Oh crap. Yes, I have feelings for this person." And went back to New York, went to Carl's apartment for bagels, and we were together from that moment on. And then when he
So
proposed, he recreated our first date, and then at the end of the date he pulled out a paper bag with a bagel in it from the same bagel store we had those first bagels at, and he had wedged the ring into the bagel, which is a very Carl thing to do.
risky.
Risky, strange, very funny. So he proposed with a ring and a bagel.
Honestly, talk about a love language.
Yeah.
If a bagel isn't a love language, I don't know what is. That is so sweet. And then had you guys talked about, like, did you know that you wanted to be a mom? Obviously, you have a complicated relationship with that journey. Was this something where you were like, I know I want to do this, or I'm scared of doing this? What were your thoughts around having a kid?
We weren't sure. And I think we were pretty casual about it. So we were together for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. We got married in, I don't know, 2014, I want to say. Sorry, it's terrible that I can't remember. We got married at some point in the mid 2010s. And we were both kind of ambivalent. Like neither one of us were like, "Oh, I've just always wanted to be a parent. I can't wait." Like it wasn't like that. It was more like, "Oh, but our life is so great right now, and we're both journalists, and it's going to be hard to make sure that we can like guarantee a certain income level to support a family in New York." And so we were very much like not sure. And then one of my sisters got pregnant, and for that sort of like brought something up in me where I was like, I think I actually do want to have a kid. And then it honestly, like it was not intentional. Like I just got pregnant shortly after that. And we were like, okay, well, I guess it's been decided.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And uh in that process of being pregnant, were there any thoughts, fears, questions you had about what this might mean for your career? Or was it just like, I'll figure it out?
Honestly, and I almost feel badly saying this because I know that for so many women and so many parents, it's a real barrier. I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it. I just felt like I'm married. I'm in a relationship with someone really supportive. We'll figure it out. I was never worried that it would hold me back professionally. I mean, maybe a little bit, like maybe a little bit self-conscious about it when I was pregnant and our daughter was like a newborn, because you really feel, I mean, you know, like it's incredibly time consuming and stressful and exhausting and like existential, and you're just sort of like, how will I ever have like the brain capacity and the time for my career again? But then a few years go by and like you figure it out and like you get that back. um and I think for me, I've been very lucky that I'm in a relationship with someone who, it's not to say he's not hardworking or ambitious, because he's incredibly hardworking, but like we have very different ambition levels. And he is very happy to spend more time at home, to be the sort of like at home parent, while I am not that. And so that has just like worked itself. He drops our daughter off at school every day. He picks her up every day. Like he's that parent.
Who's doing packing lunches? Who's doing dinner?
Okay, so logistics, let's talk about it, because we both take on certain things that I think work for us. I go to bed early, I get up really early. I get up at 5:30, which is just like what time I like to get up. He goes to bed at like midnight and struggles to get out of bed at 6 or 6:30 in the morning. So fine, that's just like, that's the deal. So I will get up, I will make our daughter breakfast, I will pack her lunch. I like doing those things. I feel like I'm like caretaking in a way, to just like know that I was the one who like made her lunch for school, makes me feel good. So I will do that stuff. I will unload the dishes. If there's clean laundry, I'll fold the laundry, and then she'll get up, and then he'll get up, and then I will go for a run, because that's like important for me. So I will do that. He will get her dressed, he will walk her to school, and then I will leave for work. He works from home, and I think that's honestly the biggest piece of this. I think if he had a job that required him to be in the office, I think our lives would be exponentially more stressful and like logistically more complicated, because honestly, I don't know how parents do it. I don't know how two working parents in New York who aren't ultra wealthy, right? Like we do well. I'm certainly not going to sit here and say that we're like struggling financially. That would be dishonest. Like we do well. We're comfortable in New York, but we don't have the money for nannies and babysitters every day. And like,
Yeah.
I just don't know how you both go to an office and are in the office all day and then get your kid at a reasonable time that allows them to do homework, have dinner, take a bath, spend some time with their parents. Like I have no idea. So the fact that he's at home all day, he walks the dog, he does like household stuff, then he picks her up at like 4 or 5, and then I'll get home if I'm in the city that week, and if I'm like not doing something for work that night, I'll get home at 6 or 6:30. She'll have had dinner because he fed her dinner. So like we have like a very good logistical setup. And if like one thing changed in it, it feels like the whole thing would like come crashing
Right.
down.
It's like a finely tuned machine.
It's a finely tuned machine. And I also travel a fair bit. So I probably travel lately a lot, like maybe like 1 week a month on average. And like when I'm away, like it's all on him. Like he's working full time.
Does he ever get mad about that?
No, he doesn't. And that's to his credit.
Carl, you're such a freak.
You're such a freak.
If you're listening to this, Carl, like what a wild guy you are. Mm-hmm. Just not even get like I would just naturally feel resentful, I think, at some point. No?
And I've definitely like been on the prowl for it and tried to sniff it out and try to like figure out if there's like secret resentment. But like he genuinely is just like happy, excited for me, loves spending time with our daughter. It never feels like a burden for him. He's just like a happy person. And it's, I mean, honestly, like it's great for me because like I'm going to London. Yeah. I'm away next week, and I'm going to be away for 7 days. And that sucks for me, honestly. Like it sounds fun and cool, but it's like, I miss my family. I miss my kid. It's lonely. And he's dealing with every single thing that has to be dealt with. Like we have back to school night on October 11th. I will not be there. He has to find a babysitter, and then he has to go because can't bring the kid. So it's like he manages a lot, to his credit.
And do you guys have sort of active discussions around how you think about parenting your child, or is it more just kind of like organic that you're making choices as things come up? Because I feel like our generation is really obsessed with parenting.
Yeah.
The irony, of course, being this podcast, but like we are obsessed with parenting and doing it right and trying to like heal intergenerational trauma and all of this stuff. Where do you guys fall on the spectrum of like doing your research and how you approach things versus just like going with what logic and reason tells you?
We go with logic and reason. Honestly, we have not had very many like big talks about how we want to parent. We have just parented together. And then as things come up, I like we will have conversations that sometimes get into like the bigger picture stuff. But an example is like I am very sensitive, as I think a lot of women are, a lot of men too, to be fair, but about like body image and how a girl grows up and is taught to think about her body and value her body. And so I'm very conscious of like how I talk about food, how I talk about exercise, how I talk about other people's bodies. And I think Carl made some offhand comment that was like something fat, like something using the word fat in front of her. And I was like, and so like we had later a conversation about like, hey, like I feel very strongly about raising her in this kind of environment. I really feel strongly that we shouldn't be using XYZ words. I really feel strongly that we should be talking about food in this way. Like I really try to avoid, like junk food is bad for you.
Right.
I'm like
We do
allergic to
all,
that kind
our
of stuff.
body needs all kinds of foods.
Our body needs all kinds of foods. We celebrate treats. We love having delicious desserts. And like we also love edamame and vegetables and all sorts of things that are like really good for your body. And we love exercise because it feels so great and it helps you feel less stressed out and it helps you feel healthy. And like, so we had some conversations about how we were going to manage that. But it's much more like topic based and event based. And we don't have like a grand philosophy of parenting other than we just want our daughter to feel loved and supported and accepted. We want to teach her to love and support and accept everybody that comes into her life, and to be kind and thoughtful. And we just want her to grow up in an environment where she like feels all of that every day. So like that's it. And
Oh,
then
that's it?
yeah, that's like the scat,
Just
and
that's
then
it.
and
Just
then
that's it.
the smaller things of like, well, public school or private school, charter school,
Yes.
like what are our
Yeah.
philosophies on this? What do we value? How much are we going to save for her college education? Like how many extracurriculars should we do? All like that stuff is just so much more, we deal with it as it comes up. We don't like have I don't have like a 5-year plan for my child,
Yeah, same.
Well, that's
I
good.
think
I'm
having
glad.
that North Star is just a good way to go because you kind of are like, oh wait, is she seeing kind behavior in me right now? And like if I'm
Yeah.
being really impatient, like am I talking about it? Because I want her to, I just think about all the tools that I'm constantly trying to give my kids about identifying their feelings and how at almost 40, I still don't know my feelings a lot of the time. And it's like, wow, what are these kids going to be like when they grow up, when they can just like look at their partner and say, I'm actually feeling really frustrated right now? Because like I'm still working on that because
Yeah.
I don't think I had those tools growing up. So I'm just very curious what we're gonna get at the end result of like
Oh, there's
just
so
treating them
much.
like
Yeah.
people.
There's so much that even just thinking about gender and sexuality and just stuff that when I was a teenager, like it was very not normal, but just a thing. Like teenagers would call each other gay. Like that was an
Oh yeah.
insult, just stuff
Yeah.
that was like just really like nasty, ugly language and characterizations. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen now, but it feels so much more accepted that kids can choose to be this thing or that thing or the other thing, and it's all fair game and none of it is bad, at least in where I live in, Brooklyn, New York. And I'm so happy for my daughter that she gets to grow up in that kind of environment, because it's, to your point, feels like she will be a much healthier adult as a result of that.
I think that's a really nice place to end on, because this has been this like wonderful journey as your friend, as somebody who's watched your career. Every time there's a job announcement, I'm like quietly rooting for you over here, to know that you're raising this kid to be this kind, good, thoughtful person, while also she gets to watch you pursue what you want. And like her earliest memories are going to be tied with your professional successes and watching you pursue like the things that really fuel you. Like, how incredible is that? It's such an amazing thing. And for all of the single women in New York, may there be more Carls than Daves out there.
May there be more Carl.
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry,
I'm sure
Dave.
You're a good guy.
You were trying to do the right thing. I asked for it and he delivered. He didn't know what he was going to get on the other side of that slap.
100%. But this has been so much fun, and I can't wait to see. I was laughing, by the way, that you didn't have any wireless or wired headphones in your house. I
have one pair of Bluetooth headphones. That's all I have.
My husband said you should suggest a rebrand from wired to wireless if
Can
this
you
is
imagine?
how we're going to behave.
Wireless magazine.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next week for another chat in the closet. In the meantime, follow along on Instagram and subscribe to the Mother Life Substack. This podcast was produced by Mother Life, music by Ronan Linka. See you next time.